Yo, what's going on everybody? Swagkage here, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about Inton, Blaze Release, or Inferno style, depending on what you want to call it. Blaze Release is a pretty odd concept because while Sasuke refers to it as its own nature transformation, separate from Fire Release, it's not. Blaze Release is just a heightened level of Fire Release, to describe it the most simply. And what's even stranger about it is it's an elemental ninjutsu reliant on an ocular power. Two ocular powers, actually. Blaze Release is derived from Amaterasu, a Mangekyo Sharingan ability used by Itachi and Sasuke, and further derived from Sasuke's Kagetsuchi ability, which he casts from his right Mangekyo Sharingan. Now, before I proceed any further, I should probably briefly summarize what Amaterasu is and how it works. Amaterasu is a fire release jutsu, and the highest level fire release jutsu a person can perform to date in the Naruto world. Its only canon users are Itachi and Sasuke, though Indra does use it in he and Ashura's filler arc. Anyhow, more importantly, Amaterasu entails the creation of black flames at wherever they happen to be looking with the Sharingan they're casting it from. And its most notable traits, which are also the reasons why it's considered so powerful, are its inability to be extinguished by any physical means, and its tendency to burn, quote, for 7 days and 7 nights. This is likely hyperbole, but it's also supposedly as hot as the surface of the sun, so I mean, there's really no way to survive getting hit by Amaterasu. Not even the Raikage could tank a hit from it. He had to have his arm removed after it made contact with the wall of Amaterasu. The only ways to counter it are to absorb it with the Rinnegan or to just dodge it. And avoiding it is incredibly difficult because of the speed at which it travels. It's projected from the Sharingan to its intended location almost instantaneously, and the only people capable of dodging it are speedsters like Minato or the Raikage. The biggest problem with Amaterasu is its lack of versatility since it can only be fired in one direction, and once the flames have made contact, the user can't really do anything else with them. The purpose of Blaze Release is to overcome this limitation by applying shape transformation to the flames of Amaterasu, allowing a person to freely control the flames in any way that they can imagine. As I mentioned earlier, this is accomplished through the use of Sasuke's right Mangekyo Sharingan ability, Kagetsuchi, which allows him to bend and control the flames of Amaterasu freely. It's only when a technique uses both Amaterasu and Enton Kagetsuchi that Sasuke considers it a Blaze Release technique, and this makes pulling off Blaze Release jutsu in rapid succession much harder than it is to do so with any other nature, since repeated use of a person's Mangekyo Sharingan will cause them to go blind and lose these abilities, but of course this problem can be overcome by obtaining the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. With the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan in his possession, Sasuke is able to use Blaze Release with incredible finesse. I think his showings with Blaze Release are actually even better than his showings with Fire Release. And I guess this makes sense, since Kagetsuchi is what he got in place of Tsukuyomi, so if I were Sasuke, I'd want it to be pretty powerful. And the fact that it allows him to manipulate the flames of Amaterasu more easily than he can manage to manipulate basic fire techniques, I mean, that sounds like a pretty fair trade-off to me. Even before he got his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Sasuke's showings with Kagetsuchi and Amaterasu were pretty crazy. Like I mentioned earlier, he took out one of the Raikage's arms, and right after that, nearly killed the guy with the wall of Amaterasu. By the time Sasuke had the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, his Blaze Release powers just got ridiculous. I imagine that Kagetsuchi and Amaterasu in combination with one another do take up quite a bit more chakra than Fire Release jutsu do. So, to say that the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan allowed him to use them endlessly wouldn't be exactly accurate, but it's still true that getting rid of the risk of blindness associated with overuse of the Mangekyo Sharingan gave Sasuke a whole lot more freedom with these abilities. He can create Amaterasu shields that cling to his Susanoo, Amaterasu swords that his Susanoo can use, Amaterasu arrows that his Susanoo can fire out of a crossbow. He can combine Blaze Release with both his Chidori and Naruto's Rasen Shuriken. He can imbue the Yasuka Magatama beads created by the Susanoo with Amaterasu. I mean, as a matter of fact, he has a technique named Enton Susanoo Kagetsuchi, or Blaze Release Susanoo Flame Control, and it's just like regular Kagetsuchi, except on a way larger scale because now it's being used by his Susanoo. All of the previous Enton Susanoo abilities that I mentioned fall under this, in addition to any other ridiculous applications that he can find for it. The thing that makes all of this so ridiculous is that Blaze Release is practically unbeatable because the flames can't be extinguished, and they don't burn for a limited amount of time or anything. Like I said, they're said to burn for 7 days and 7 nights. This means not only are most of Sasuke's Blaze Release jutsu strong against any other ninjutsu you pit them up against, but it's also really easy to find a way to combine Blaze Release in with any jutsu that Sasuke can perform. He even has an Enton Fireball jutsu, and that's just stacking fire on top of fire. Like, it's not like he just makes a fireball jutsu out of the flames of Amaterasu. He forms a regular fireball jutsu that's like orange and everything, and then coats it with Amaterasu on top of that. Now granted, he only does this in Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, but who's gonna tell me he can't actually do this? He fit Enton inside of a Chidori. It's not too much of a stretch to imagine that, yeah, he can put a Matarasu on top of a fireball jutsu as well. That would not by any stretch be the most ridiculous thing he has accomplished. The craziest thing I've seen him do with Blaze Release is also a Storm 4 exclusive thing, but I don't see why he couldn't accomplish it with his regular on-screen abilities as well either. He uses a Matarasu to pierce the enemy and then traps them inside of a Chibaku Tensei, which he lights up with an Amaterasu. He then activates his perfect Susanoo, creates a Chidori with it, lights it up with Amaterasu, and blows up the entire Chibaku Tensei, which is still coated in Amaterasu. How are you supposed to stop that? I'm telling you, man, Sasuke's Enton is not stoppable. I'm not saying it isn't cool, but it's just ridiculous what he can pull off with it. His use of Blaze Release is easily one of the best examples of shape transformation in the entire history of, like, all of Shinobi ever. But yeah, that about does it for Blaze Release. If you have any questions about it, of course, leave them in the comments below. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to get updates when I post new content. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like on it. If you really love me, you can check the description for the links to my Twitter account and my Patreon. And of course, as always, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Hope to see you in my next video, and I'll talk to you later. Swagkage out. Bye.